essential, God will meet that need. God will satisfy you. God will fill you. And the result will be contentment. But see, here's the problem with so many Christians today. And I'm saying Christians on purpose. This is the problem with so many Christians today. Other things are the priority in our life now. The will of God, we're not hungering over it. We're not thirsting over it. It's not the priority. If we have a list in our life, the will of God is way down further than it should be. And the result is we are discontent. We are not satisfied. You see, only the Lord, only His will for our lives can nourish the soul, make us content. As I was preparing this message last week and this week, I was thinking about just some of the things we look to instead of God's will to try and find contentment. Here's some things that I came up with. Maybe you can come up with some more. What's some things that we look to other than God's will to try and be satisfied in life? One is money. That's the American thing, isn't it? We look to money to try and fill a void, to satisfy something that only God can do. Folks, money won't satisfy. Money won't make you content. Money won't nourish your soul. Only the will of God. Only God can. Another thing that we look to is material things. We think if I just get this toy, this bigger toy, this fancier toy, if I just get more stuff, I'll be satisfied. I heard it said of a certain person, they asked him, they said, how much stuff is enough? The guy said, just a little more. It's a mirage, isn't it? It's an illusion. Stuff does not equal contentment. Stuff cannot satisfy. Things, material things, can never make us content. It's God's will that satisfies. Another thing we look to is relationships. We think if I have this person, if I'm with that one, this person will make me happy. This person will fix me. This person will make me content. This person will satisfy the deepest longings of my life and of my heart. A person can't do that. Only your Creator can. The Creator who made you, who loves you, He's the only one that can satisfy. His will for your life brings contentment. It brings satisfaction. Another thing we look towards is hobbies. Boy, I think the United States is eaten up with this. We put these hobbies, these extracurricular activities above the things of God, and they consume us. Marriages are coming apart. Families are coming apart. Everybody's run ragged. Everything is crashing around us. But if I just do this hobby, if I just do more of it, if I just get better at it, the result will be contentment. No, it won't. The result will be breakdown. The result will be chaos. If you look around in our community, if you look around in our state, if you look around in our culture, it's all around us. Hobbies don't work. Hobbies won't satisfy. Hobbies don't bring contentment. God's will does. Another thing we look to is drugs and alcohol. I read this morning, I'm a news junkie. I like to read the news. I was reading an article on the opioid epidemic in the United States right now. Did you know that 65,000 people died last year from overdosing on prescription drugs? Scary. What's going on? Why is there so much drug addiction? Why is there so much alcoholism? Well, drug addiction and alcohol addiction, it's symptomatic of something deeper, of something spiritual. You're trying to find contentment. You're trying to fill a hole in your life, a void that only God can in His will. Drugs and alcohol just make you more empty in the end. Just makes the hole bigger. This makes your life hurt more. Only God can satisfy. Only hungering and thirsting for His will in your life to line up with it. Only that can bring contentment. Brother Terry, your watch just stops. I'm just going to keep on going. I'm just kidding. One final thing. What do we look to try and make us content? We look to sex. Hugh Hefner died, last week? The articles on him made me want to vomit. A cultural icon of liberation. He didn't liberate. He brought more bondage. It's exactly what he did. Pornography is an epidemic in our country. And it shows, you remember a couple of years ago they said that the Playboy magazine was in decline and that they were no longer going to post nudie pictures in their magazine. It wasn't because Hugh Hefner had a change of heart. It's that pornography is so accessible, it's so free on the internet that nobody would buy the magazine when you get it for free. He created that himself. Because he, probably more than any other figure, saturated our culture and our society with sexual immorality. And now there's this idea that pleasure, sexual pleasure, especially outside of the confines of marriage, that pleasure is going to satisfy, is going to bring contentment. It won't. It won't. Just like drugs and alcohol, it just makes the hole bigger in your life. What satisfies, what brings contentment? A deep, deep desire to conform to God's will. I've been saying this several times. I'm going to say it one more time. God's will for your life and you conforming to it, is it essential for you? Or is it optional? Jesus said it needs to be like food and water. You got to have it to live. Your soul must have the Lord, must have His will in your life in order to be nourished, in order to thrive. I said earlier, if you don't have that craving, if you don't have that desire in your life, there's two problems. Either you're a believer and you're sick, or you're lost. Today, maybe your problem is you're a believer, but somewhere along the way, you've gotten back out into the world. You've gotten back out into sin. And now the cares of the world, the worldly values have come back into your life, and God and His will is no longer the priority. If that's you today, you're sick, you need some help, and Jesus can do it. He can heal you. He can restore your spiritual appetite and give you the right cravings. Maybe that's your problem. But we've got some folks in here this morning. Maybe your problem is not that you're spiritually sick, but you're past that. You're spiritually dead. And you need salvation. Well, Jesus can help with that. Just like He can help with spiritual sickness, He can certainly help with spiritual death. Because He brings life. By His stripes we are healed. By His death, we have spiritual life. If you know this morning you lack these cravings because you're lost, then I want to invite you to come this morning and let me share more Jesus with you. Let me introduce you to Him. Let me give you more about the gospel. Right now, Brother Terry is going to come and Miss Debbie is going to play, and I want to give you the opportunity to respond to this truth. If you see this morning that you're a believer, but you're spiritually sick, I want to invite you to come to the altar. I want to invite you to come to me. Call out to the Lord to heal you, to restore your spiritual appetite, to nourish your soul. Or maybe this morning you recognize that you're spiritually dead. Come to Jesus and gain life eternal. As Brother Terry comes, Miss Debbie